What's up, my pretties? It's the Line Queen here. Welcome to episode 288 of Shadows and Pretties. And as you can see here, today we are going to be reviewing a disturbing movie called Time to Kill. This came out in 1996 and it stars Sandra Bullock, Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Spacey, Matthew McConaughey. So, this is basically an American legal drama film based on Josh Grisham's 1989 novel called Time to Kill, which I will be talking about the book because the book, the pretty much I will be explaining about, how it got inspiration and stuff like that. So, honestly, I will be saying about, certain things. So the adaptations of Time to Kill, which is pretty much what the novel is based on. However, there are other stuff. There is two sequels to the same the novel to the same character, such as Sam Camorro and which is another one, which is Time for Mercy, which I'll be talking about those in a separate film. So basically, the story takes place, well, the book and the movie is definitely different. So, oh. And before I begin, I wanted to say this is going to involve some subject matters that may not be, suitable for anybody. Like it won't be suitable for, kids or well, it's not for kids obviously, but it's not going to be suitable for anyone who's sensitive to this type of thing. However, there is it is the second of the two films based on Grisham's novels, as well as, well, being The Client, which was released 2 years before this movie, which I will talk about that maybe in the next video. So, A Time to Kill. Now, basically, the story takes place in a fictional town of Clanton, in the equally fictional Fort country, Mississippi. This setting also features in other John Grisham's novels. The passage in the chamber reveals the events of A Time to Kill took place. So basically in the novel, the year took place in 1984, and it's pretty much the same thing in this one. So yeah. So basically, what basically got the inspiration of the book, I'm going to talk about that later. However, I will, talk about the film, given, a bit of information and context as to, what the movie's about. And I will say right now, if you're sensitive to any subject matters, that involves, NSFW suggestive stuff, there are certain words I'm not going to be saying in this, in this review because YouTube's not ad friendly if I talk about certain things. So I am going to be doing the best I can to make sure it's, much ad friendly as possible. So the film starts off in Clanton, Mississippi, which happens to be a movie. Now, basically, that's the town where the movie is from. So, the 10-year-old African American girl named Tonya Haley gets kidnapped, violated, and beaten by two local neo Confederates named Billy Ray Cobb and James Willard while on her way home from getting the groceries. The duo dump her in a nearby river after a failed attempt to hang her. So, Tonya, who survives, and the two men are arrested by Sheriff Ozzie Walls. Tonya's father, Carly Haley, contacts J. Haig Briggens, and a white lawyer who previously defended his brother Lester. Briggens admits that there's a possibility that, well, the people that violated his daughter will walk free. However, Carly goes to the country courthouse and opens fire with an automatic rifle, killing both the people who violated and harassed, well, the people that harassed his daughter, and unintentionally wounding the deputy Wayne Looney, whose leg gets later amputated. Carly gets arrested, and Briggs agrees to defend him. As pretty much what happens that goes on this and a subsequent revenge killing game. National media attention district attorney Rufus Buckley decides to take the case in hopes of furthering the political career. He seeks the death penalty, and presiding the judge Omar Knows denies Brigands and the charge of venue, more ephonically, diverse country, meaning that Carly will have an all white jury. Brigands seeks help in defense of him, and while the law student Ellen Rorach, close friend of Harry Rex Vonner, and the former mentor, longtime activist Listen Wilbanks, once a great civil rights lawyer. Meanwhile, Billy Ray's brother, Freddie Lee Cobb, plans to avenge his brother's death by joining the insulating help with the Mississippi branch of Ku Klux Klan, which is KKK. And it's pretty much a grand dragon. So to stump on the session and ensure that Carly's conviction and death is sentenced by all means necessary. So on the first day of the trial, where the Klan takes the streets rallies only to be outnumbered by the counter protesters consisting of the area's minority and residents and whites who support Carly. The protest erupts into a violent brawl that results in dozens of injuries and the death of the stump citizen. The Klan also begins to pretty much target Brigands, assaulting his elderly secretary and her husband, who later dies of a heart attack brought upon the assault. So they burn across his lawn and threaten his wife and daughter. When Brigands refuses to back down, the Klan increase their attack, including kidnapping and assaulting Rorach and burning Brigands' house down. Brigands is able to discredit the state's psychiatrist, Dr. Wilbur Rodeheaver. However, Buckley in turn discredits Brigands' psychiatrist, Dr. Willard Tyrell Bass, and revealing the prior conviction of the statutory, well, I'm not going to say the word because, yeah, YouTube's not ad friendly, but you can understand what I'm saying. And dispirited, Brigands tells Carly that there is a little hope for this acquittal and tries to persuade him to take the plea and deal with what imprisoned him for life, but spare him the execution. However, Carly refuses this by reply that he had chosen Brigands as his attorney because he is a white man and has an insight of how the jury sees Carly. So during the disclosing arguments, a deeply shaken Brigands tells the jury to close their eyes and listen as he describes the entire ordeal of Tonya. And later, in some juries shed tears of his final comment. Brigands then asks the jury to imagine how would they feel if she were white. So in deliberation, the jury finds Carly not guilty. Jubilation ensures the amongst of the supporters, while the Klan becomes arranged over in defeat. Meanwhile, Sheriff Walls arrests Freddie Lee for his crimes, as well as the corrupt deputy, who is revealed to be the Klansman. So sometime later, Brigands then brings his wife and daughter to a family cookout at Carly's house to celebrate his freedom, challenging Carly's previous statements at their children that would never play together. So that's basically, what the film is about. I mean, for something that was made in 1960, well, 19 not 1960 but 1996, it honestly was pretty disturbing. If you thought I Spit on Your Grave was more disturbing, I mean, I think I did talk about it, but I can't remember. If not, I may consider talking about that. But in all due reality, this one was just really disturbing. I mean, I remember seeing the film like a long time ago. In the movie, a lot of things, and it's pretty much the same and stuff. However, though, we are definitely going to say, what's the inspiration of the book? Grisham described the book as very autobiographical in the novel's young attorney, is basically him, and the drama is based on the case that he had witnessed. However, fun fact about this, in 1984, Grisham witnessed harrowing testimony of a 12-year-old victim at the DeSoto Country Courthouse in Hernando, Mississippi. Two sisters, Julie Scott, who is 16 years old, and Marcy Scott, her 12-year-old sister, have both been violated and brutally beaten and nearly murdered, while Willie James Harris, unlike Grimm's depiction. However, the Scotts were white and their assailant was black, so there is a bit of a difference when it came to that right there. So, according to Grisham's official website, Grisham used his spare time to begin on his first novel, which explored what would have happened if the girl's father had murdered her assailants. He spent 3 years on A Time to Kill and finished it in 1986. Well, 87. So Grisham also cited that Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird as an influence. However, another inspiration was the success of Presumed the Innocent, which I have not read any of those two books or anything, but I definitely gotta say this was a pretty good it's a good movie for something in the 90s. I mean, a lot of books from the 90s were pretty crazy. A lot of books from the 90s were something 80s, but a lot of movies mainly from the 90s were actually quite disturbing. I mean, if you look at, the R-rated films from the 90s, you could definitely say that it is really disturbing and it is really really messed up in many ways. I mean, while I definitely have to say, the writing was good and all and it was pretty interesting, it's definitely really fucked up in many ways that I can count, especially with what happened, in there, about I'm really glad that the people that did attack, well, Tonya got what they deserved in the movie, because of what happened. So, anyway, I guess with that being said, this film was mainly produced by around Canton, Mississippi, with using a soundage built especially for the sound production of the city's industrial park. Most of the location filming did take place around Madison County Courthouse and the former Country Jail Courthouse grounds. In other locations, the filming took place was in Jackson, Mississippi, in the metro area, including the Jackson Elvers International Airport and stuff like that. However, though, decades later, Samuel L. Jackson was highly critical for the film's educational decisions, claiming big emotional scenes for his character were removed, which kept me going from getting an Oscar, which, of course, I mean, that's kind of definitely was something. Now, however, there was a bit of controversy that this film had when it was, well, a reaction in France with, about, critics have used the movie of making an apology for the death penalty and for right of self-defense. However, a question mark was added in the title of Le Detroit Tour, which is also the right to kill, was also to shock the audience. So basically, this movie was, just made for shock value. I mean, it's a shock movie. I mean, it's made to shock you. It's basically a really shocking, film. I mean, I'm really glad that the villains, the people that violated Carly's daughter, in the movie, they got what they deserved. But for those of you who wonder about this movie, I think you can get this movie on Amazon or something. I think you could get this on Amazon, but since this movie came out in the 90s, I don't even know if you can find it like on DVD. I mean, I think someone might have I think this is on VHS as well because since this film came out in the 90s, you can definitely say it's a really, really messed up film. I mean, what did I think of this movie? It is a really, really messed up movie. I personally gotta say, this film definitely has a lot of, issues when it came to this film. I mean, when I first watched it, I honestly was really disturbed and unsettled, especially with, what was going on in this film. It honestly was really really fucked up. Now, I mean, I could definitely say right now that if you are a horror fan or well, it's not really a horror movie, but if you like, movies from the 90s, if you want to, well, pretty much take a look at it, you can. It's actually, it's definitely a good movie from the 90s, but if you are sensitive to this kind of thing, then I don't recommend this movie if you're sensitive to it. So, I guess with that being the case and with that being said, I personally have to say right now that while this is just simply my own personal opinion on this movie, this is definitely what I think what this movie could be. So I mean this film is definitely pretty it's a pretty shocking film, but at the same time I definitely have to say that you know, I mean, a lot of these movies, I mean, I could watch a shock movie and it would not phase me. This one managed to get me really unsettled. I mean, I was really unsettled by, certain scenes of the movie, and I mean, it was just really messed up. I mean, while I've never read the book, the movie itself is actually one of the disturbing movies. I mean, it's not really disturbing crazy like I Spit on Your Grave. No, it's not like any of that. So there's definitely that. But however, the film itself honestly was not as bad as I thought. But at the same time, though, I mean, I gotta appreciate Samuel L. Jackson for being in this movie because he's the same person who did The Incredibles, like the first and second movie as Frozone. I mean, most of you guys know who he is. When I say Samuel L. Jackson, most of you guys think it's Frozone, and that's exactly what my first instinct was when I heard he was in this movie. So, I guess with that being said, that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie and the book. So if I'm missing something, please let me know what it is in the comments below because I personally would like to, well, hear what you guys think about this movie. So I guess with that being the case and with that being said, what did you guys personally think of this movie? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally help make the movie better. If you happen to be disturbed by it, I don't blame you. But at the same time, I will say this right now that if you happen to be, new to my channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, be sure to follow me on DeviantArt as well as my Twitter account. Link to those will also be in the About page section, so you guys can go check them out. Also, if you're interested in subscribing to my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, link to that will also be in the About page section, so you guys can go check it out. So, like I said, if I'm missing something, please let me know what it is in the comments below because I think I got everything. So, as always, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video, and as always, peace out, and I'll see you all next time.